Number 1. This is my father's story written from his perspective. It follows an experience he had with a skinwalker on the Navajo reservation. When I was about 11 or 12, we lived in a small house made of mud and stone, a lot like our house now. It was 2 of my brothers and I in the house. Everyone else had gone to the James feast and left us to tend the sheep. We were getting ready for bed when we heard the dogs going crazy outside. Thinking it was nothing more than coyotes howling in the distance, we told them to be quiet. We began to drift off into sleep, and the dogs would not shut up. Somehow, I was able to go to sleep for a few hours. Then I woke up very late in the night. It was very quiet and still in the house, save for my brother's snoring and breathing. I realized I needed to use the outhouse, and woke my brother up to take me there. He teased me about being scared, which I certainly was. We went out with our flashlights to the outhouse. The dogs began their crazed barking out in the sagebrush, going from one place to the next. My brother went first, and I waited outside for him. While waiting, I tried to follow the dogs with my flashlight. Suddenly, there was a very loud whine from one of the dogs. Then everything went quiet again. It was really too quiet for that time of year. Not even the sheep were making noise. Suddenly, I heard a few of the dogs going completely mad by the truck. When I looked over, there was this man. He was unbelievably tall, leaning one arm on the cab roof of the truck. He was looking at the dogs for a little, and then suddenly started kicking one of them. They all scattered in different directions. The thing looked up at me and I saw its face. It had a pure white face, like a full moon, 2 burning red eyes, and a slight smile that was pure black. I could not move or make a sound. It began to walk toward me with long strides until it finally towered over me. All I began to see was a dark red, like the color of blood when you cut the throat of a sheep. I kept getting deeper and deeper into its eyes. I could faintly hear my brother coming out of the outhouse. With this, the thing looked up at him. Reality came rushing back to me. I noticed that my brother was too distracted with his buckle to realize what was going on. I also noticed this thing's long hands hovering just inches from my head. Its skin was black ash, and it smelled like a bloated dead animal in the summer. I was still unable to move or speak. The skinwalker began to move toward my brother. Finally noticing this figure, my brother became paralyzed as I was. Closer and closer it drew, reaching an arm out toward my brother's head. Something finally snapped in me. I became unbearably angry. I broke from the trance and lunged at the skinwalker, raising my arms like a wild animal and baring my teeth at it. A growl came out that I never knew I could make. I became more and more angrier at this thing that was trying to hurt us. It kept that smile at first, but the angrier I got, the more the smile faded. Finally, with everything I had, I began to make this primal roar at it. It fell backwards and ran away into the night. Looking back at me, its eyes were dim and dull, its smile now long since gone. The next morning, the family returned home from the feast. After relaying the story to my parents, they quickly hired a medicine man. Number 2. Alright, first off, this isn't my story. I found a phone out in the woods near my house. They have been bulldozing and taking down trees to build new houses, and I like to walk around and see what they've done. I don't know the woman that posted this, or what her Reddit handle was, but I know that she wanted it up here because she believed we were the only people that would believe her. Her phone was pretty banged up and had absolutely no service. I figured this was the least I could do for her. From here on, these are the words of a Mrs. Helena White. October 9th, 2013. My name is Helena White. I am a 36-year-old female from Kentucky, which is where I currently am. I need someone to see this, though by the time you do, I will already be dead. I don't have access to the internet here, just my cell phone that's dying and has 100% no service. I have scheduled this to upload to Reddit where people actually believe the weird things we all have to say to each other if anyone ever finds it. Everyone there has an open mind and can at least know the truth. I have also scheduled one to go to the police station, but they will never find me. The best they can do is give my family the news. I feel terrible for my mother, that she will never know what happened, never have a body to bury, never have closure. No one I know will, but at least they will know that I'm gone. It's better this way, believe me. If they knew the truth, they would never sleep again, and no doubt they would hunt for me. Again though, they will never find me. I will be dead, just not gone. I know you all on Reddit have heard some seriously crazy shit. I mean, I read about the girl that found a weird creature house thing in the woods right here in Kentucky a couple months ago, and I've seen people talk about everything from zombies and ghouls to ghosts and vampires. If there is anywhere that will listen and know my story is true, it's here with you guys. I should explain. My husband Jeff and I headed out into the wilderness. I probably shouldn't say exactly where, because I really don't want this to happen to someone else. It's better to let it stay here with Jeff and me. But it is a very beautiful and remote patch of forest that extends for many miles. It is a very large place, and does see visitors ever so often, but the seclusion of it is one thing Jeff and I both love. We had been planning this trip for months, and were seriously excited that it was finally time to go. We had everything you can imagine for camping for a full 2 weeks out here in the beautiful wilderness. Rainproof tent, dishes, cookware, food, water. We were ready for roasting marshmallows and hot dogs over the open fire, hiking and admiring the beauty all around us. Yes, I'm aware that this makes me seem like a hippie, and maybe I am a little bit, but I really love the outdoors, especially the woods. Anyway, Jeff and I had planned this right down to every last detail that we were ready for the perfect, tranquil, and rejuvenating camping trip. That isn't what we got though. 2 days in, we got caught in a huge thunderstorm and had to hunker down inside our tent while the wind and rain beat so loudly against the sides and top of our little rainproof tent that we thought we might be blown away. Just as quickly as it came, it was over, and the sun started shining again. If you've ever lived in or visited Kentucky for any amount of time, you know what I mean when I say that this was seriously just typical Kentucky weather. It's kind of our thing, I guess. 1 minute blaring storm, next sunshine and birds singing. After that nice little downpour, every bit of our gathered firewood was soaked, and they weren't drying up anytime soon. Jeff went to find more wood, and I decided to stay behind and clean out the fire pit so it would actually burn the wood Jeff brought back. It was starting to get dark, and if we didn't have a fire, we would be cold and unprotected. I had gotten it suitably ready when Jeff came flying out of the ever-darkening woods. He did not have any firewood. I was a little upset by this since it was already nearly completely dark. Jeff, what the? Is all I could get out of my mouth before Jeff was at me throwing one arm around me and one arm around my mouth. I was terrified at this point. What was this? Why was he doing this to me? But I could hear him mumbling, "Oh fuck, oh fuck, 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 fuck." Please pardon my language, but he was mumbling that over and over in my ear. I knew what that meant too, and it was bad, and about to get worse. I heard my husband's voice in my ear again. Helly, his nickname for me. When I say run, I want you to run as fast as you can back to the car and get the hell out of here, okay? I was terrified at this point. What the hell had he seen? And was it coming for him? I moved his hand off my mouth and stated, "I'm not just going to run off and leave you, Jeff, and you know that. I've seen my husband scared only once in the 15 years I've known him. It was right after his father had a heart attack, and they didn't think he was going to make it. Jeff and his brother Dean paced the floor back and forth. Once I went to stop Jeff to try to comfort him, but when I caught his eye, my heart broke. I grabbed him and held on tightly as I could until his silent sobbing finally subsided. The look I saw when I caught his eye this time was so much worse than the last one. He was terrified of losing his father, but this was like he had reached a new level of fear. Before I could ask him anything else, we heard this god-awful roar. I mean, this thing could have shaken houses. It was the most terrifying and unexplainable sound that I have ever heard. Jeff grabbed me, kissed my forehead, and told me to run. I didn't obey, and I probably should have, considering how things turned out, but it's done. Not 2 seconds later, this monstrosity of a creature comes barreling into our camp and within view. I'm a little embarrassed to say that I screamed like a little girl. I think most people would have. This thing is so hard to describe, but I'm going to try my best. This thing was at least 9 feet tall, maybe taller. Either way, it was big. What really threw me off, though, wasn't how high it stood over me. It was how skinny it was. I can't describe to you how skinny it was. It was like it had never eaten in its life. Like skin simply draped over bones. His bones rippled through his gangly leathered skin. It looked like giant worms wriggling as he moved. His arms were almost as long as it was tall. They could stretch much farther than a typical man could, and he sort of looked like he just rose from the hell of the earth. Had a large head that looked like that of a deer, only a psychotic evil deer from Satan. His nose elongated and dripped with white foamy drool, just like a deer. He had long knotty horns that branched from the tip of his skull. That leathery-looking skin was grayed and patchy with what appeared to have been hair at one time, with his hands and feet sprouting out what looked like weeds, like a big pile of hay had been stuffed up his sleeves. The creature stood, watching for a moment, taking us in as we did him. I was terrified. I had never seen anything like that before. The scariest thing I had ever encountered in the woods was a wolf, but luckily, it was alone and didn't appear to be hungry, so he just turned and jaunted off. This thing was quite the opposite. It looked hungry and determined. I started to scream uncontrollably. Apparently it didn't like that. He let out a roar at us, blowing that foul-smelling drool all over us. That sounded like everything you can think of dying and screaming in their death all at once. He then extended one of his giant arms and smacked me with it, grabbing Jeff before I could even get back up. I heard a rumbling sound as he pulled my husband closer to him. I realized with horror that the rumbling was of hunger. Jeff was gone in an instant. The creature snapped his head off like a doll and swallowed it in one gulp. He began biting into Jeff's body like he was some kind of sandwich or something. The crunching was the worst, trust me. It is a horrid sound no one ever needs to hear. I threw up, screamed, and then remembered that Jeff had told me to run. It was too late though, because just as I was pulling myself, painfully I might add, out of the brush pile I had landed in, the monster was done with Jeff. Just like that, the man I knew for 15 years, the man I called my husband for 14 years, was just gone. But then he came back. The monster taunted me by becoming reflective as he moved. A facade of Jeff took his place. I could see my husband, like he had become him, but I could see through it to the monster behind the disguise as well. Perhaps it was because I saw the monster before he changed, I don't know. But whatever the case may be, that thing can take the form of people it has killed and eaten, or at least, that's my best guess. I finally freed myself from the brush and took off, full speed ahead toward the direction of the car. My husband's melodic voice filling my mind, my ears, my very core, beckoning me back. He was so convincing that I almost turned back. I fell into a huge hole. I think it was a trap. I just don't know if it was a trap from people for that monster or a trap built by that monster to catch people. Either way, I fell at least 20 feet and my leg is broken in 3 places. I can't even move it. I'm going nowhere. I'm sitting here writing this now because I can still hear my husband's voice calling for me, and sometimes the monsters roar. He's looking for me, but thankfully went the wrong way. I know what's going to happen though. He'll be back shortly, and he will kill me, and then he will steal my face. So please, if you ever find this, anyone, get out of these woods now, and don't come looking for me. I'm dead. We both are, and some horrible monster is wearing our faces so he can eat you too. Mom, I love you so much. Don't come looking for me. Goodbye. Helena White.